Welcome to Hello Plant City. I'm Arlie Smoot.
And I'm Adrian Smoot.
Our aim is to create a stronger plant city by learning more about our neighbors in town. We'll talk with people, we'll hear stories, and we'll share ideas from all corners of the community.
All right. Hey, my name's Nate Davis. I'm a resident of Plant City by way of Antioch, Florida, and I own flmortgagefirm.com. We're a mortgage brokerage that is actually nationally ranked, and we're located here in Plant City, Florida.
All right. And good morning. My name is Aaron Davis, resident, born and raised Plant City, Florida, by way of Antioch. Obviously, Nate's my brother, so we were actually raised in the same household. I was put outside. They put me outdoors. I was raised in the barn. Nate got the bedroom. I own a number of businesses here in Plant City, namely Hillsborough Title, but then we expanded from that. So it's Florida Agency Network, a number of additional title brands, Network Transaction Solutions, Premier Data Services, and a few other companies that no one really knows about that do really boring title stuff.
By my count, there were 87 companies.
88. I filed a new one right before we came over.
I'll just add that you served in the U.S. Marine Corps, and
Yes, sir.
thank you.
I was the reserve, so I told everyone I'm a diet Marine, so I never was deployed. I went to Parris Island boot camp, became a U.S. Marine, Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, but was never deployed, so I told everyone I'm a diet Marine.
Well, in any case, it's appreciated. Maybe in layman terms for people like me and not Adrian, you can sort of explain what you do.
Yeah, I think Nate's is a lot easier. I think that's an easier get a mortgage, buy a house, right?
Yeah. So basically, if someone's looking to borrow money to purchase a home, whether it be a single family home, mobile home, condo, if they're looking to buy a home and borrow money to do so, we offer purchase mortgages for that, and then we also do refinance loans.
Did you add mobile home just because Adrian's here?
No, we've always. As a matter of fact, I got my start in the business because whenever I got in the business, it was flooded with all these brokers and lenders. So I figured I had to create a niche, if you will. And a lot of people did not understand mobile home financing. So I became the mobile home expert. So I can, and that's how I drove my wedge into creating relationships, because I couldn't just say I do standard loans like the other 50 people So I became a mobile home expert, and that's how I kind of made my wedge in the industry. So I don't just do loans for a living. I live it. So I invest in homes and buy homes. In fact, I'm closing on one next week here at Hillsborough Title. To where I buy homes and either fix them up and sell them, or I'll buy vacant lots and build spec homes and sell them, or the end goal is to buy them and keep all of them and collect, positive cash flow rents. And so I did a seminar though called 40 by 40, where I told my story how I acquired 40 homes by the age of 40, but I also had them all paid off by the age of 40. And it's the gist of it is live below your means, invest, buy. Let other people's cash flow pay for your investments and assets.
Unlike Nate, I chose a different route. I chose to be in debt up to my eyeballs by the age of 40. So I learned how to borrow $40 million by the age of 40. So I like to live on the edge. It gives me a little edgy nerve.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, I'm always on the verge of bankruptcy. So just living large, right?
So you don't give him loans.
Blacklisted.
Yeah.
No, I'm my company's biggest liability, so I just they push me off and leave me in the corner. So no. But to clarify for the public, it's not. No, we're we both are in the real estate business. Nate's, I would say, in the much more sexy side of the world. We're a boring title company, and so typically no one knows what a title company does for a living
until they get to a problem.
Yeah. Exactly,
and then they learn why it's important.
Well, most of my family thinks I sell cars, so that they're like, oh yeah, used car, call Aaron.
Aaron does title, his car titles.
Title. Oh yeah, he transfer title. That's good. Yeah. So we're kind of the hidden piece of the transaction. If we do our jobs the right way, no one knows we exist. Mm-hmm. And so we're involved in the transfer, basically the paperwork. We insure title, we search and make sure there's no liens or judgments, and then so we can issue a clear policy for a home buyer. So our clients are home buyers and sellers. Refinance, whenever they refinance a mortgage, they need us to handle the documents and paperwork. Whenever you build a home, and then commercial, basically anything that involves the transfer of a piece of dirt, or investing or financing a piece of dirt, we're involved in that.
I usually think of you guys as like the conductor. You're talking to everyone and making sure everyone's doing babysitter as well of everyone.
Yeah. My mom said it best years ago that we're at the bottom of a mountain. So you've got this mountain. Someone at the top of it released a snowball, and we're at the bottom to catch the avalanche. Grab all the pieces and stuff them. We're like, oh, here's the lender. Oh, here's a realtor. Here's a buyer, seller. Stuff all this information into one nice little clean closing and have everyone come in and sign their paperwork. And by the way, so our mother started Hillsborough Title in 1984. She was 26 years old.
Single mom,
mother of 2. So I was 9, Nate was 7. And so she took the risk of, starting a business, and, just put yourself in those shoes.
And I think that's the coolest part about the story that Aaron and I both share is that, he was the first person to ever get to go to college, and I was the second in our whole family.
Okay.
So it's not
cool.
like, we came up in this real estate dynasty of people who, only through her getting in the title did I even learn about how to invest. So I was investing while I worked at Geico, and that's where my kind of journey started. And obviously with the title transition with Aaron, but our family is, if you're looking back, half of them probably could have and easily been, on different, assistance programs and things like that, but they weren't. They just didn't, they just worked, and so our whole family is just workers from Antioch, a lot chip on our shoulder, the underdog, just scrappers, if you will.
Yeah, our grandpa had a 6th grade education, and they raised, for extra money, they raised over 40 foster kids. And then my grandpa always used to joke, he'd come home on a random Friday and there's a new kid sitting on the couch. What's your name? Joey, get a haircut. Cut that hair, long hair.
Yeah.
So that was in Antioch?
That was in Antioch, yeah. So and then our dad's an electrician. Our mom was the first to start a business. I mean, everyone else was just working at the mines, And
I think those roots is what makes the blessings taste better, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not like it's expected. We're kind of like, I know me and Aaron do the same thing. We sometimes look and we go,
what happened?
What is this real? Is this what just happened? And not about like, oh, is this real? Look at what all I have. But it's just look at all the jobs. I mean, Aaron, how many people do you have?
We're over 200 now.
Over 200 jobs.
Are those all in the Plant City area, or
so years ago we purchased this park that we're sitting in now. So the Alexander Oaks is 40,000 square foot of commercial. We occupy about half of it now with my businesses. So there's about 120 of my employees here in Plant City. And then the other 80 are out in, Brandon, Tampa, Ocala, Gainesville. We've got offices statewide. So, but the core of everything is here. And we made the conscious decision years ago to, keep the core here. Keep the core here in Plant City, become one of the large employers in town. And we support every event, every charity, everything there is.
You see his banners everywhere, and it's the same thing. Like on our side, on a different scale, is that we have 40 full-time people, and this is not like 40 entry-level jobs. These are good jobs, and that's what really gives me fulfillment. It's not like, oh man, did I make an extra $1 today? It's not. It's just like, man, you're building this thing that in a whenever we were younger, whenever you got out of college, you moved away. You didn't stay in Plant City. There's no jobs in Plant City, but there's these things happening. We're starting to add some legitimate jobs. And there's all types of examples of companies like this. And so you have this mindset that, man, these things weren't there when we were younger, and now we're a part of that change. That's really fulfilling to know that, you're making a difference, not just in your own team members' lives, but in the community itself. You got many more people that are spending their money in this town, and they're aware of this town. And, and like I said, on our side with the ranking pieces, last year we were number 24 in the United States of America for volume for mortgage brokers. Out of every mortgage broker in the United States of America, we were ranked at number 24. And you do that, and you're sitting there going, we don't have Fortune 500 money. We don't have Ivy League school. We are the people who are not supposed to win. And we're winning with people with Plant City jobs, people driving to Plant City from Mulberry, Valrico, Lakeland. These are where our people live. And it's pretty empowering to know that, it's not money or, special designations that wins. It's still grit and hard work and tenacity still wins. And I think our team is a prime example of that.
Yeah, and I use the example, when you talk about education, so, and I hope my kids aren't listening to this. And, I don't want, they're doing great. They're 5.0 kids, but, I graduated with a 3.6 at Plant City High School, and that was weighted with gifted points. So my natural GPA was about a 2.4. I spent 5 years to get a 2-year degree at HCC. off and on and off and on and off and on.
I love hearing that because I spent 4
Yeah.
years. So I finally can now tell people there's
That's
someone
what he told
longer.
me. He said a lot of people go to college for 6 years. I said, I know they're called doctors there.
Well, I was like, well, all right, well, let me go up to Florida. Oh, let's knock it out in 2 years. No, let's get a third football season out. So
we almost graduated together, actually.
I've got an 8-year education. I got 8 years of school and a 4-year degree. I'm killing it.
But you haven't stopped because you're in a program
Yeah. So
now.
it was that that was just kind of the get through the schooling and the education, and then it was building the business and eventually I found that I wanted to further challenge myself, so I did enroll at Harvard Business School. I'm enrolled currently. I'm in the 3rd year of an executive MBA program, but that's 20 year removed. I said my goal is to have the most interesting resume in the world. Is Plant City High School, HCC, Florida, 20-year hiatus, Harvard Business School. So this program is designed for executives that own their own business. So you had to have a minimum, number of years that you own your business, minimum revenues, and so we have a global class, 180 CEOs from around the world, with revenues from 10 million to 1.5 billion. With a few as few as 10 employees, and one guy has 50,000 employees. So you get this really diverse cross section of people, and you learn a lot from the classes, but you learn a lot from each other. And that's the thing.
It's like every MBA program.
Absolutely. So it's at the end of the day, it's all about network. It's all about who you know. I tell my kids this, or I haven't told my kids this officially. Get good grades in college, but it's who you meet.
Absolutely.
I had 2 knucklehead. Who would have known? I had 2 knucklehead fraternity brothers who I was sure would be, probably in jail or incarcerated, by now. And one ends up, landing at a hedge fund job, with Blackstone, and the other one, lands with a Waypoint. And when all of a sudden these hedge funds are buying all these homes back in 2012 and 13, they go, "Oh, great, we want to buy thousands of homes. Who do you know for title?" "Oh, I know Aaron." And voila, there you go. So it's the network.
Yeah. So you mentioned grit earlier, and obviously you two have done a lot of things that were not, we'll say, taught to you by family. It seems like. What are some of the advice I guess you'd give people, like morning routines? You hear all these things and self-help and these days, and you can't do it all, and then some of it just doesn't seem real. What are some advice or things like that you think that really helped you too?
I think a lot of times when you look at different books and trainings, people skip the first few chapters of what it takes. People talk about maybe investing in mobile homes or investing in homes and flips or whatever. But, and Adrian, this, if they don't start with their own personal budget to begin with, you got to start on chapter 1. If not, you're going to start reading a book on chapter 7. It doesn't make sense to you, right? So when it comes to grit and tenacity, I think that it comes down to it's discipline, and discipline is hard, but consistency of the act makes discipline easier. And the analogy I always give people is like, whenever you're a kid, if you want to see a child, tell them to brush their teeth as a child, and they're like, they lose their mind. Oh my gosh, I gotta brush my teeth, and it's just this big, whenever you're young, that's what they do. And then as you get older, we all wake up and we brush our teeth, and you don't even remember it was just so subconscious, right? And it's because you did it over and over and over and over. Just like when you start going to the gym, day 3 is a hell of a lot harder than day 260. So you have to create a consistent routine. You got to create the routine, and then the consistency of it. And those days it's like, I don't want to, just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. And you have to make up in your mind that it's non-negotiable. You have to tell yourself, this is not a negotiable. This is non-negotiable. So if I commit, and that goes to whether it's health and working out, diet, relationships, business, whatever it is, that same principle applies, that you have to be consistent and you have to have it in your mind, because you won't be consistent if it is interpretational. An example too is like whenever people do in finance world, they'll say, give me a 15-year mortgage. And sometimes you can always pay extra on a 30 and pay it off at 15. But they say, listen, I understand that, but I don't think I have the discipline. So give me the 15. Okay. So they're acknowledging, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. So you have to acknowledge, where's your weakness, right? So whether it's if, for example, if you know that you are going to eat bad at night, maybe that's the time that you do an extra 15 minutes of cardio, because that's going to raise your discipline at that moment. It's going to recharge your batteries. I think when it comes to telling people how to get that, it's a mentality. It's a savage mentality that you have to have, and you have to be relentless. I don't know if you follow like David Goggins.
Oh yeah.
Okay, he's like talking about taking souls. That level, and to me, I got some of that through our upbringing, And I got a lot of that through the Marine Corps, because if you start doubting yourself during those moments that you're ready to break, you will break. So what you do is you say, man, if I've been able to do this, it's not the physical aspect you got, but it's the mental. Like, I've ran until I've puked. I've ran until I've had blisters on my toes where you pull the whole sleeve of your toe. I've done those things. And I say, if I can do this, I know what it's like to take my mind to places. And so this is easy. This is, we're typing pieces of plastic and talking on the phone. So why can't I not just dominate in this aspect if I have that level of grit?
To summarize, the secret of your success is brushing your teeth.
Brushing your teeth.
And
brushing your teeth. That's correct. Join the Marine Corps and brush your teeth, kids, and you will be successful. I promise you.
Well, I think a great story, and I think we both, have similar stories from our upbringing. But it is when you have a parent who has some success, and you don't want to live in that shadow, especially if you're in small town USA. You grew up with a number of people whose families had businesses that you see the kids inherit the business and they just kind of coast. And that's not, when you have that chip, that grit, you don't want to coast. You want to double, triple, quadruple the size of the company and show people I did not just inherit something.
Right.
And, I'm not a silver spooner. And I tell you that I think Nate's got a great story, because when we were younger, there was a guy, Scott, who would come. He was a client, and he would come in. Both of us were working in the title company, and he worked in construction. He worked for a stucco crew. He owned a stucco company. And he's like, you little mama's boys, you and your little air-conditioned desk jobs, you couldn't stand a day working out here. Well, Nate got it. He said, you know what? I'll show you. He worked for him all summer long.
He bet my mom.
Years old.
Yeah, he bet my mom. I think the wager was like $1,000 or something. He said, I bet that your son will not make it a summer with me. And he said, if he pushes a wheelbarrow for a summer, I bet he'll push a pencil for the rest of his life, is what he had told her. And I'm always like, challenge me. If you want to see me do something, tell me I can't do it, right? So once he said that, I said, done, it's on. So at 16, I worked on a stucco crew, which you're carrying 16-foot boards, scaffolding, mixing stucco. That's what you did. So I did that for a whole summer, and that was some exceptionally hard work. And I loved it. Like, I thrived on that, And of course, I completed the mission, if you will. But
it was to prove someone wrong.
It
was literally to prove someone wrong.
Correct.
Original dirty jobs.
Correct. So when it comes to motivation, if you don't understand your deep why. And that why can't be like, well, I want to, have something nice. That's not a why enough. You got to get down to your childhood. You got to get down to something that hurts you as a child, something that you felt that your parents didn't give you. You got to get down to those levels of your psyche. And when you start touching on those things, now you're starting to find the why that will make you do the things that we do. And it's that separation, because everyone wants to say, well, I go hard. I'm like, well, you do. But it depends on, how well do you know yourself? How well have you really broken out your mind? And you go into some our sales meetings sometimes, I'll have my whole sales team in there. We'll be crying in front of each other. We'll be crying, talking about things, because we find out what our why is. What makes you want to be, not did a good job, but exceptional in every capacity, the best that you can be in every aspect for your customers, your family, everything. And you get down to that, now you're starting to find your why that's going to carry you forward. Otherwise, it's going to be temporary. That's why there's so many Bowflexes in houses with laundry hanging on them. You get amped up, and that's easy to get amped up, but you got to dig deep. Do you apply these practices to your kids?
So it's interesting with the Nate story, that it's the same. Both of my kids, they're 17 and 14, so they've been working every summer, and having jobs and everything. And the way that we were raised, we realized I can't do the same way. Why were we successful?
Exactly.
Because we lived on a farm. We had 40 head of cows. Me and Nate were waking up at 6 a.m. to bottle feed day-old calves before the school, and then come home and mow and feed and do all this stuff. So that farm living, really does create a hell of an ethic. Well, my kids didn't live on a farm. They live, a cushy life. So you're trying to drive them in a different way. But here's my oldest son, Aiden. This last summer, I was super proud of him. He worked on a landscape crew the entire summer.
I love that.
Out there busting it. He's had a job. He had a job at Winn-Dixie bagging groceries, going to school. And then finally he gave up the job during COVID because we said, you know what, other people need that job, more than you do. So he gave up that job at Winn-Dixie to allow someone else to work, work that opportunity. So yeah, my takeaway is my kids are learning from, from us the right way, not having to experience it the same way that we did. But I definitely, I think your girls do the same thing.
And that, sports brings out a lot of people, military sports, hard work, growing up on farms. These things all have similar attributes that bring these things out to where it's not that you have to, work on a stucco crew your whole life, but if you ever have, you're going to appreciate things a little bit differently. And I think everyone needs to get a taste of that.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really good for them, really healthy for them.
And I feel like it's really difficult to do what you're doing, to apply those lessons from your childhood and make sure that your kids don't necessarily.
That's the challenge everyone has. That's why you look at different generations. Whenever people start out, that first generation is always that hardest working generation. That generation one that made it past middle class, for example, they're going to have that. But what if you're third or fourth? They start to get soft, and it's not like they're destined to do that. But it's just I always tell people this: it's easier to budget money when you don't have it than when you do. Because when you don't have it, it's out of necessity. Hey, if I don't pay this, we're turning your lights off. If we don't do this, we have no food. Versus I have this, now I have to discipline to self-discipline, to not do these things so I can have extra to then be able to invest or whatever.
I think too, the one thing we both have done, which is maybe unique, is navigated businesses during the 2008 recession. That teaches you a lot too. Because when I had to, I purchased the title company from my mom in September of 2008. The market crashes in November of 2008.
We both like to buy.
She knew what she was doing.
She totally tricked me.
She's not. She's not.
She's like, what
she's
boys
sharp.
y'all want? Nate's like, oh hell no. I was like, all right, I'll take it.
Usually when we invest together, we like to buy high and sell low. That's kind of our strategy.
We're a tax credit machine. CPAs love us. So yeah, but that was when you have to navigate something like that, and the bottom falls out, and you're just losing thousands and thousands of dollars and not knowing when it's going to end, and your whole livelihood is there. You've cut. I canceled the bottled water service. $5 a month. We were cutting every bill possible. So when you get that lean and operate, and you have to operate like you have at that point nothing to lose, because there was literally nothing left. And I think by March of 2009. Payroll was on credit cards. There was nothing left. And so by April of 2009, finally, I looked at our P&L that month and I made $1,000. And I was like, I asked my bookkeeper, I said, is that ours? Can I have that? And because I had not received pay in 13 months. And so that, those type of stories that builds too. And Nate's company did the same thing, navigate through that 2008-09 crisis and to come out where we are today.
I want to go back to your mom. Do you know why, or why would you think that she decided to start a business? You said that she was the first one in the family to do that. Why did she break the family pattern?
I know the story very well. She worked for another lady. This was back in like 81, 82. She worked for a title company. This is an old school, traditional, chain smoking owner. And, at that point, my mom's 20, she's like 23, 24. And the owner said, they were doing a closing, and it was a commercial closing, and it was in Chicago. And the owner's like, Gail, I need you on that plane tomorrow to go close that deal. And she's like, I've got 2 kids at home. I don't have a babysitter. I can't just up and be on a plane. If you're not on that plane tomorrow, you're fired. And she said, well, I quit. And so after that, she said, I'm not going to let someone else ever determine, my outcome. I'm going to do this myself. I see what it takes to do a title, make it to run a title company. And at that point, there's only one other title company in town. And she said, all right, well, let's do it. And so she started up November of 84. You take whatever stray closings you can do, nights, weekends, whatever you can get. And when you got 2 little rugrats in tow, she's putting us in the corner going, all right, y'all shut up. Go in here and do the close. And Nate, you refill the paperclip jars. Aaron, you dig the staples out of the carpet and refill all the toilet paper holders. That's the kind of stuff that you're growing up in a family business, and that's what we did.
Yeah, you learn a lot from that. I always tell your kids are always learning whether you're teaching or not. You might not know it, but they are learning. And you might So just we learned a lot of that. So that was definitely a blessing and something I'm always thankful for to see that from her on her side. That like I said, I think that's probably step one of grit, determination. The odds are stacked against her. She's a single mom, didn't come from money. And then she's like, I'm going to start this right now.
And a woman doing it in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s, correct. Yes. Yes. Definitely that mentality.
I know a lot of people that work at your company is like the expectations and the fun. Can you just speak on that of how you create that environment?
Well, and I think we both share in this. It's our companies are 100% based on culture. You have to build a company that people want to work at. And if you show them the path and your passion and your love of what you do, it bleeds down. So, you know, from when it comes to the review, you know, look what anytime you're in our situation, you work on the 90, you focus, everyone else focuses on the 95% of the things that are going right. The CEO's job is to focus on the 5% that's going wrong. And that 5% is what eats at you. And if there's a single closing that goes wrong, I get personally involved. I mean, it's just, that's the passion that you have a reputation. And I think that's the biggest thing with us is reputation is everything. Reputation is what got us here today. And I think that both of us, you know, you ask anyone, and this has traveled well beyond Plant City, well beyond Tampa. It's you know, Florida nationally. You can't find anyone that has a bad thing to say about us from a business standpoint, because we've done everything it takes to do the job right. So that's my stance.
Yeah, I think we looked at the industry, and I think a lot of places make this mistake. They'll say, well, the industry for a loan, for example, on a refinance loan right now, you know, they're all backed up. And let's say the industry is at 45 days. And a lot of places will say, you know, we're going to make it 40 or 30. We don't do that. We start with perfect. So my goal with my company is I want to make a loan where you're going to click a button and you have a mortgage instantaneously, right? You're not going to talk to people. You're just going to click a button and it's going to be done. Well, the government won't allow that. They require 7 days. They say you cannot close on a loan until you've had an initial application for 7 days. So what's my company goal? 7 days. We're not going to take the industry, because I think the industry's standards are very poor. I think so. We start out with, I don't care what the industry does, because we're doing something different. And so our team is innovating. We're doing things that's unlike anything else. Our average loan is under 3 weeks right now. You know, a lot of places right now, they say, you know, because of the volume that they need 60 days or more, we're under 3 weeks right now in this the height of the market that it's ever been. So we do that, and then we also look at pricing. We say, you know what, we're going to be less expensive than everybody, and that's something that's really important to me. Is that a lot of times in cities and towns, it's like, hey, support local. But in the back of their mind, they're like, yeah, but if I do, I'm probably going to cost more money, right? So I said, you know what, I don't want your business because I'm local. I want your opportunity, and that's all. And you know, and not for my company per se, but I do see this a lot, to where I always say, you know, consumers should think about where they spend their money along the same lines whenever they're thinking about, hey, I need some money for my Strawberry Festival. I need some Little League money. You know, they think about all these local companies then. And it's like, you know, you want to think about the companies too when it's time to spend your money, because that's how they're doing these things. So it doesn't mean that you owe them your business. Just give them an opportunity, you know. So whenever we build our model, we said, look, if we have the best service and the lowest prices, I think that's how you win. You know, unless people like to pay more money or like that service. Yeah. So you take that with a very intense approach to where, for example, if someone calls my company, they don't have to complain. If for me to be aware, if my front desk knows if someone calls and they sound frustrated, that's the standard. If someone calls my company and they sound frustrated, they have to tell me about it. Now, and I'm going to look at it and research, find out why. I'm going to get with a team member. You know, and if it's something that's elevated, I'll also get involved, of course. But that's our standard. If you sound frustrated on the phone.
Wow.
So
I love it. Those are high standards. I mean, and if you would touch on the company culture, I know a bunch of people that work at, and I'm Facebook friends with them, and you can just see on the Facebook and both of your Facebooks that it's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's you know, it's top down. You know, the more that you show, I'll give an example. You know, it's just something that kind of resonated throughout the company from a culture standpoint. This was hurricane, you know, was it 5 years ago, the one that rolled through Polk County?
Yeah, Irma,
right? And so that day of the hurricane hitting, I woke up that morning and I didn't have any generators. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get a generator. So I ended up getting, by the end of the day, I had 4 generators. Well, I only needed 1. I just bought the extra ones, you know, as just in case. Well, then as we were getting the news of our staff, like not coming, their homes not having power, I was okay. So I went out, and me and my son went out and delivered generators to my staff. And then as their power came back on, we went and grabbed that one and took it back over here. So we were powering up our people's houses, and it was just something that natural that came to us. It's nothing that you're doing. You're just doing it because it's your people and you love them.
Community.
That's right. So, but that resonated from a cultural standpoint throughout the entire company, you know, and they're like, if this is the servant leadership, this is servant leadership. These guys will, you know, externally I'm the CEO. Internally, my label is janitor. And from a roster standpoint, I'm dead last. I'm the least important person here. You know,
team comes first.
Yep.
We hear this in business that you got to find a niche. And then we hear you got to diversify. And you've both proven that these are both true.
Both right.
You're both right, and you're doing kind of the opposite. Well, can you just speak to that real quick? Why do you think a niche, and why do you think it's so important?
So with, and I don't think one's right and one's wrong, but to me, diversification, we have so many opportunities of other businesses that we throw off. I mean, we can keep other companies in business just with their own referrals, if you will. And people say, well, Nate, why don't you do that? That way you can put your hand in the cookie jar. I'm like, I don't want that. I want someone else. That's money for someone else to earn. In this industry, especially like in the real estate industry, you'll see a lot of companies that are like trying to incorporate and fold in every aspect. And it's like, that's not what's best for the customer. What's best for the customer is having a laser focused company. So one of the things that we do is called burning the boats, right? So burning the boats is back in the day whenever a country would invade another country, the people are like, I don't know if we're going to win or not. Maybe we'll go out the boat. The captain goes and sets all the boats on fire. You're here. You're going to win or you're going to die, right? So we burn the boats and we sell out into mortgages. And that's it. Laser focused, be the best, no distractions. Not other little things going on, no distractions. We're going to be the very best in mortgages, and that's kind of how we do it. And we take all that focus and elevate what a mortgage process is. Not like what the industry done and what the world's done before in the history of mortgage, just make it the absolute best. I think if consumers can say, I want the ease of technology and the convenience of technology, I want to know that people actually care about me and they're available to speak to if I need that, and I want to be consulted to understand what my needs are, what's best for me, and also be affordable. And I think if you just do that with a laser-like focus and burn your boats, and there's no other alternative, that's all you're going to do, and that's all you're going to be, then I think you're going to find new levels of what the industry hasn't even seen before.
Aaron, why is he wrong?
No, he's not. Well, so he's not. And what, oddly enough, everything that I do is title related. It may not be the actual title closing. It may be a search product needed for a title. It may be a lien search product needed for title. It may be now an entire remote online notarization division that's needed for title. And to operate the title companies that we had to have strong IT. We had to have a huge network. So by the time I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, for building our cloud infrastructure, I was like, well, it's already built. Might as well take on some other clients as well. So my saying is, stay in your lane, bro. But the highway can be a little wider. So it could be a wider highway, and that's what we've done. And I've learned over the course of time. I've made bad investments over the past. For God's sakes, I own a go-kart racetrack in Wisconsin. Why? I have no idea, because I got suckered into it, and it's a loser, and I'm a partial investor in it, and thank God it's almost done, and I'm out of that deal. But the minute I stray, from the highway, I lose. So stay in your lane, bro. Pick one thing, do it well, and let everyone know. Like, everyone knows what we all collectively do for a living, because we have not bounced around our entire lives. We've had the friends that every 2 years they're changing industry. You're like, well, what is Joe doing today? Oh, well, yesterday he was doing mortgage, and today he's selling
no matter what you do, you have to strive to become, like our mantra is, we are the subject matter experts. In other words, if there was a court case and they needed a mortgage expert, you should have one of my team. Like my team, that's their goal. Not just to kind of know it a little bit or be decent at it, be best of the best. You are a subject matter expert. So that's kind of the approach.
Perfect.
Now we'll jump into a segment we call Homegrown Sentence, where we're going to start a sentence and then you finish the sentence.
No, this is scary.
You're free to pass, but that's not something that someone with grit would do.
No pressure.
And you can each answer one or both. A key trait, habit, or skill that led to success in my life is
listening to others.
I would say humble while being exceptionally driven.
Something that I think is true, but most people think is false is
where you start is how you'll end up.
I'm going to say it the wrong way, but looking at your success today, anyone's success today, and not realizing the path it took to get there.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
You can finish.
A book or movie that has inspired me.
Animal House.
That's how you got that.
That's right. Yeah. I'd say the David Goggins book. And that was after the fact, but it was just reinforced. It kind of it was very good to hear
the audio version, right?
Yeah, but it's good to hear people reinforcing that your beliefs and that you're not the only person out there.
What's the name of the book? We'll put it in the
You
show
Can't
notes.
Hurt Me.
You Can't Hurt Me.
You Can't Hurt Me.
Mm-hmm. it's going to be strong for some people, but
Phenomenal book.
yes.
Plant City's best kept secret is
I think it's the close knit environment of businesses and people that you take throughout your life. I have friends that I've developed here that are still lifelong friends that you go to other places in the world or in the state and they do not have that close network where I can pick up a phone and call a guy that I've known since 6th grade to come pick me up in prison. That's the network.
Yeah, I think society focuses a lot of the negative connotations with small cities and small towns, and what's not exemplified enough is all the positives. If I go to dinner, sometimes I can look across the restaurant and say that was my catcher from Little League right over there, and that bond that you have is something that you can't move to another city and pick up. So I think that the culture of the city, the fact that we're growing while maintaining that is and that's what families would want to move to, in my opinion. So it's not all logistics, it's not the houses and road. I mean, that's important too. But the culture, everyone wants that small town culture with the big city conveniences. And if you can maintain that in the city, I think you're onto something special.
that balance. A fascinating person in Plant City that many people don't know about is
Aaron Davis.
That's actually how I describe you two as I've gotten to know you over the years, because I've brought your names up and people are like, who are they? I'm like, so now I think that you two are, in our generation, because you guys aren't too much older than me, like the
Aaron's old as hell,
underestimated, like the underestimated business people of Plant City. Like you're moving into the next generation, and I'll say running Plant City, and not that many people know about you.
I think that's where the humility part comes into, and it's not like, oh, look at me, I'm so humble. It's just more of like, whenever you win a game, don't run around the stadium with the trophy. Just, I won the game, and now I'm going to go train because next season's coming up.
Yeah.
It's just that laser focus. Like there's a story of Emmitt Smith when he won the Super Bowl. That night, he's in there bench pressing. That night, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm getting ready for next season, pressing weight. So people like that don't traditionally have the same awareness.
Well, I think it's notable that I bet most people have heard of y'all's businesses, at least your main business, and yours, but maybe not necessarily your names. And that speaks to that hard work.
Yeah, I think we both get, that I think it's something that we both take pride in is, it's one of our investment companies, right? The Davis brothers. I think we kind of have that chip, and we claim Antioch. We could claim Plant City, but when we do, but we claim Antioch. It's a even smaller, smaller, grittier, dirtier place.
I respect that. Anytime I'm not around here and people ask where I'm from, I don't say Tampa.
That's right.
And in the way that we are with our teams, I know, like in my scenario, I'm shoulder to shoulder with my team. I'm not standing in front of them. I'm in the foxhole with them, shoulder to shoulder. That's how we go. So I can perform every task in my company with my team members. So it's not just something I thought up and I say, y'all do it, figure it out. It's in that. So when you do that, you're not at the forefront, and I'm completely okay with that.
And I had to similarly, I correct people that say I work for Aaron Davis. I said, no, you work with Aaron Davis.
I like that. Yeah. If I could snap my fingers and Plant City could have anything overnight, it would be
Chick-fil-A.
I want to say Polynesian salt so bad.
Something original. A Target.
No, it was a conversation yesterday. I would love to see a large tech employer. That's what makes differences. That's you're going to use Google for an example, but that did literally create an entire job market of $100,000 and $200,000 jobs. I would love to see some type of employer that comes in, not just, and we appreciate the warehouse jobs and we appreciate all the things that we're getting, but that would be really cool to have a kind of a tech hub that started,
100%.
And that's what drives the downtown and the midtown and all of the other things.
It doesn't need to be Google size. Like these are happening in St. Pete and Tampa. There's no reason there couldn't be one in downtown Plant City.
Yeah, ConnectWise is a great example. They were based in Brandon, Florida. They just sold for over $1 billion. And had thousands of employees. I mean, so how cool is that?
It's incredible. I went to high school with a girl that was an early employee there, and I think she cashed out well.
Yeah, I'd say housing, not for, when people bring in housing, they bring in their own vendors, so it wouldn't help me per se with a new housing development, but not entry-level housing development. Walden Lake it reached, it's there, but that's still your premier subdivision. And look at many other cities would have 8 or 9 of them by then. So whenever I think executives are looking in the city to look at companies, you look at logistics and counts and employees and labor force, you can look at all that. But at the end of the day, there's a husband and a wife saying, where are we going to live? And I guess there's executives you'd have to say, well, a remodeled home in Walden Lake, which is nice.
Yeah.
But other cities are saying, look at these, brand new fishhawk type,
brand new $500,000 homes for
So I think that's a key element that people have probably underestimated with economic growth in the city is you need to have, some places to live that would gain their attention.
Well, that is the direction that I think our city leadership and folks are trying to do.
Yeah. We just had a meeting yesterday with EDC. I mean, they know it. They realize that we're scoring all of the big jobs, and the execs, are looking around from housing options and going to Lakeland or going to Fishhawk Ranch, and we need to keep those people and those jobs and those dollars here in town.
So I think these things are all happening. I think you will have a Chick-fil-A here one day. I think it all. I just want it all happen. I want it faster. I want a nice subdivision and a Chick-fil-A. Give me that.
We always want it faster.
I want to push back on the subdivision idea because I really want your thoughts on it because I think you know the industry and all that a lot better than me. But whenever we talk about that hometown culture and community and feeling, I think that a lot of that, at least more than we appreciate, is driven by our urban planning in a way that subdivisions of the last 50 years have not destroyed, but really eroded. And so I'll push back on the idea of, I'll say urban sprawl, a negative description of it. And I agree that we need more housing, but you said like that,
so
that husband and wife, why couldn't they live downtown? Or there's a lot of infill.
They can, but they're looking at options. They're coming from what they know.
Exactly.
What they know, wherever they came from, and they're looking at other areas around us. And here's the thing is with the urban sprawl, is I'm not saying, knock down all the fours, let's just go. I'm not suggesting that. I know there's a balance for that. But this is what I do think, is that a lot of times it's easy to chalk it up to say, hey, if you put all this development in, you're going to lose all these things. Can you have a big family that is scattered across the nation that still have a substantially tight family bond?
Sure.
Okay, well, can you apply that to a community then? Does it make a challenge? It does. Is it not possible? But to me, again, I'm not like a let's just build 1 million homes kind of guy. I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that some things are inevitable. Okay, and you're either going to lose to Lakeland, or you're going to have some part of it. You don't have to be the industry leader. You don't have to go just mowing down every pasture and farm and just putting it all up. I'm just saying that there are new subdivisions popping up around here. But where are the ones that are not for your, not your first time home buyer per se, but just something with a little bit more, that's what I'm saying.
But do you think that what attracts people to Lakeland are subdivisions like that? I really don't know. None come to mind there.
It depends on the age of person. I mean, so look, a young tech person, fresh out of college making, 6 figures, they're going to live in Tampa. Or they're going to live in Orlando because of all the stuff, the walkability, the things to do.
For walkability.
So, Midtown's not going to get that just yet until there is, something that wants to keep them there. It's getting there. We're getting a lot more businesses and routes and, a lot of these new places that are popping up, which is fantastic. Yes. And there is the walkability factor, but people usually come out to Plant City for a little slower pace, a little more land, and to raise a family. And so that doesn't always add up to, a development downtown with, second and third, multi-use.
Your best asset is the culture here. It is the small town feel. So you just have to say, how are we going to maintain this? And also, people are going to move here and you will have to have housing.
Sure.
So what type of housing are you putting in? The one that's going to attract, the people who will bring maybe some jobs, or just more of the same old shuffle? That's
balance.
Correct, it's balance.
Yeah. I think you have to look at us, for instance. Of course we had the ability to send our kids to private school. I could have sent my son to Jesuit or Lakeland Christian or wherever, but I chose to send them to public school in Plant City, Florida, Plant City High School, because it's not about the education, it's about the people. It's
Yes.
about the
Correct.
families and the people and the fact that I know my sons, their kids, their friends, and that network. Same way that ours, our parents knew ours as well. So that right there, I mean, we're living proof. We were public high school kids with average GPAs, me less than 8. But it's not about grades. It's not about schools. It's about the extras.
Yeah, community.
Yep.
I think that's what a lot of this comes down to. Last one. When I was 30, I wish I knew. We can do 20.
Oh, Lord, I know. It's funny. I've said every 5 years, you look back and go, I mean, I'm 45 now, and go, man, I was an idiot at 40. Oh, man, I'm 35. What did I even know? 30. Oh, my God. I did, if I look back at 30, I just barely had a family, just starting off. And I would say that I would tell my 30-year-old self, money isn't everything. Take more time to spend with your kids and with your family, because the money will come later.
Yeah, mine, I think I would say just be more present. How many times are you at a friend or family's birthday party or gathering or Thanksgiving, and you're like, oh, hey, hey, Uncle Chuck, hi, how about the Gators? Okay, good. That's not getting deep. That's shallow. So I have made it a conscious effort to where whenever I'm with family or whatever, I'll try to get deep without being a weirdo. For example, like, hey, nice birthday party. What happened when you was a child? Yeah. But
Tell me about that abuse.
But here's a question I like to ask people that really will help you get to know who people are at their core. Is I'll say, you know what? If you won the lottery, Powerball, whatever you want, first few years you're buying stuff, paying off stuff, all that, great. I want to know on year 4, on a Tuesday morning, what are you doing?
I like that question. I'm gonna use that.
Because when you
like
ask
that.
someone that, they're like, well, I remember I went to Mosey one time with my daughter, and there was a Buccaneer player there, and everyone was asking about football, and I got up and I'm like, hey man, what'd you do this morning? He's like, what? I was like, what'd you do this morning? He's like, I've never had that question. I'm like, you want to tell me? If you don't have to tell me. He's like, I garden. I'm like, really? You garden? So this guy, he's a gardener. That's his passion. He loves gardening. He started telling me about all these spices and things he had in his backyard. And I'm like, that's how you find out, because most of your life is distracted with working for the necessities. Kindness isn't going to pay your electric bill, right? But it's like when you take money out of the situation, who are you? What do you do? What do you spend your time on? And then that's when you find out a lot of people's passions. So after the lottery, 4 years deep, Wednesday morning, what are you doing?
Yeah, I lied. That wasn't the last question. That's the last question.
Okay.
So y'all can answer that one now.
What do you do if you hit the lottery on a Tuesday morning 4 years later? That's the question.
After the initial excitement, I'd be doing the same thing I'm doing today. Yep. I enjoy what I do for a living. I enjoy the business that I built, the relationships that I built. Might have some cooler toys. Yep. Probably travel a little bit more. But on a Wednesday morning, I'm waking up. I'm going to CrossFit. I'm coming back. I'm grabbing a shower, get a cup of coffee, and starting my day.
I think what you find too when you start to do that, you peel it all back, is what you realize is like you have this epitome in your mind of like, if I can just have this, then I'm going to be happy, right? It's like a destination of happiness. And what would I do? I would work out. I would spend time with my family. I would hang out with my friends, right? And then you start to go, well, I don't have to win the Powerball to do that. I've won the lottery right now. What's stopping me from being the happiest version of me that's ever been here? It doesn't require the money. And that's what you typically get back to. Because if it is something that's a tangible item, then that's probably not what's really making you happy. You can't find happiness at the mall, is what I tell people. You can't spend your way to a smile. So that's kind of what I look at is, you want your health, you want your family, you want your friendships, your value, you want your spiritual aspect and the relationship aspect and the health aspect, all these things. I get a lot of fulfillment out of, growing my business because not because of the bottom line, but I like seeing people who weren't given a chance, and they can show the world because that's an underdog version of me coming up, so that's what gives me a lot of fulfillment. And it's cool when you think about it because you realize you hit the lottery already.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, share it with friends. If you have feedback, let us know. We're on Facebook at Hello Plant City. Email us, helloplantcity@gmail.com. The music is by the talented local duo, The Birthday Saps. Thanks for listening and have a great week.